Hey, so as this video starts, just bear in mind that I'm not good at talking. So there are going to be times where I stumble on my words and I say one word when I meant another word. So just don't roast me. I know I'm going to be editing this. I'm going to be like, oh, I need to redo this whole video. And I've already done that like 3 times. So I'm not doing it again. I'm just going to upload it the way it is. So bearing all that in mind, here's the video. What's up, everybody? I did a poll on my Instagram to see what people wanted to do more. Top 10 list of bands or a top 10 list of my favorite lyrics. And people chose top 10 favorite lyrics. I made the list. I even started making the video. And midway through, I was like, this isn't going to work. It's not going to work because it's just evolving. If I'm like, yeah, this is my favorite song, this is my favorite line, haha, go check it out. That's not really much for content and not really much to talk about for more than like 2 minutes. So I'm actually going to do something a little different. I'm going to do my top 10, not in any order, favorite albums from the past like month or so. Not that have been released in the last month or so, but that I've been listening to for the past month or so. So strap in, grab a refreshment, and, intro over. Boom. Whoop. So the first album on this list is the album Renaissance by Peripheral. Of all of their work, this is definitely my favorite to listen to straight through. The melody selection is great. It's basically pop on guitar. No vocals, straight up instrumental, heavy guitars. It's not like pop, but it's just stuff that makes you kind of like happy. It's like music that makes you feel in a good mood. And it's pretty light, so you can listen to it like while you're driving or while you're, doing dishes or while you're playing video games or whatever you want to do. And I think it's definitely a leap forward for guitar-driven music because guitar is very much the focus, and I really like that. Especially, I'm a little biased being a guitarist, but I also feel like Polyphia is palatable even if you're not. It's just a great melody. And so definitely check out this album. I don't have much more to say about it. My favorite songs are Euphoria and Crush. Great songs. Check them out. All right. Next up on this list, Animals as Leaders, The Joy of Motion. Tosin Abasi is definitely the best guitarist ever to have ever lived at all. And his use of very repetitive riffs and how he does that thumb thing where he does the down and the upstroke creates a very interesting stance for riffs and lines that are very repetitive but also very heavy. He brings a very unique spin to metal, and it's just great. You can listen to this album all the way through, but it is a little bit, it gets a little bit riffy, which I love, but I feel like a lot of people wouldn't. My favorite songs, I would say Another Year, The Woven Web, and probably Cascade. Cascade is probably my favorite song. Cascade, I think, is my favorite instrumental song of all time. So if you're into that sort of thing, you've probably already heard this album, but definitely give Animals as Leaders a listen. Although you will fall in love with prog and you will only listen to instrumental shit from now on. So just be wary. All right, this is an old one, but a good one. I always fall back into listening to this album after, if I'm thinking about stuff, whenever you get out of a relationship or, something bad happens, this is an album I always go back to. The past few months, I've been kind of jamming it passively. My favorite songs, I would say Hopeless, Dear Agony, Fade Away, and Lights Out at least the intro riff. Probably not the whole song, but the intro riff. Lyrically, it's very much destitute, but then you have songs like I Will Not Bow that kind of lift you back up. And Without You at the very end, it's kind of like, you go down in the trenches for an album, and then at the very end you come back out with Without You. That's kind of the light of hope at the end of that tunnel. Breaking Benjamin will always hold the top spot of my favorite band, no matter how overproduced their later stuff is. Great songwriters. This is definitely a classic. I will say, when this album first came out, I did not like it. But as I've grown older and had some life experience behind me, going back and listening to it, it brings both nostalgia and a sense of understanding, because I can kind of see where he was coming from. So if you've never heard it, I would definitely recommend giving it a listen, or check out their album Phobia. That's probably, I would say, objectively Breaking Benjamin's best album. But right now, Dear Agony's been in my rotation, so check it out. All right, Alien, Strapping Young Lad. This is the album embodiment of the emotion anger. My favorite songs would be Shitstorm, makes you want to flip tables, punch walls, throw screwdrivers. Great stuff. Then you have the song Love, which is about love from a cynical viewpoint. And then the song Possession. And this album, just all the way through, it's aggression. And Devin Townsend has said before that Strapping Young Lad was his outlet for aggression and learning how to manage anger. And this album, it's just one where if you're just frustrated or you just want to hear something intense, this has been my go-to, and it's fantastic. So I would say 10 out of 10, check Strapping Young Lad out. All right, the second Devin Townsend release, Strapping Young Lad, was Devin Townsend. This is his most recent album, Empath. So as I said with Strapping Young Lad, his emotion was anger. With Devin Townsend Project, he basically had a different emotion for each album. And Empath is kind of where everything comes together. You have like the 80s hard rock ballad in Spirits Will Collide. You have the Strapping Young Lad throwback with Hear Me. You have kind of a show tunesy sort of song with Why. This whole album is a journey from start to finish. Nolly from Peripheral, he produced it, and he does a great job, especially with a work like this where there's so much going on. You can hear every element clearly, and it tells a story, but very loosely. Each song has a different vibe. And so it's very jarring and jolting, and everything is kind of weird. And so on days where I'm feeling a little bit like I don't know what mood I'm in, throwing this album on, figure out pretty quick what mood I'm in, and it's this mood. Go listen. Go on now. Turn this video off. And I would say that's a good transition to jump into this. Sometimes I like metal. Sometimes I just want to listen to some chill stuff. Deadmau5 is probably one of my favorite, probably my actual like favorite EDM guy. It's kind of hard to dig into that genre, and Deadmau5 is probably one of the most prevalent names you hear. So aside from random mixes in random Spotify playlists, I just go listen to him. And this album is very much different from EDM. He actually had, I believe he had an orchestra play everything, and all live instruments, and it's the most chill album I've ever heard. It's called Where's the Drop, because there's no drop. Here recently he released an album called Here's the Drop. I've listened to that a few times. It's really good, very much back to the traditional Deadmau5 approach, but this album was very much surprising for me. I remember when it released and I was like, ooh, new Deadmau5, cool, let's hear it. And then all of a sudden it feels like you're just like in an ocean of sound, but it's just great. All instrumental. Great for a chill drive to work. Great for a chill vibe at work. I've said chill a little too much. Chill. Audio Secrecy by Stone Sour. This album is tied with Come Whatever May as my favorite Stone Sour album. This album happens to feature quite a bit of like love and anti-love songs. Corey Taylor has said that this album was one where the label was really pushing and he had to use a lot of his solo material for it. You can definitely hear what songs he wrote just on an acoustic guitar for his solo release and what songs they worked up as a band. I would say the strongest songs on this album, Imperfect, Miracles, and my favorite song on this album is Unfinished. And it's just a great album, very like power ballady, pop choruses. It's probably the most Stone Sour album. A lot of people give Stone Sour shit when they try and sound like Slipknot, which I would say they're two separate things, but that's a criticism a lot of people have. I like with this album that you almost would completely forget that the dude from Slipknot is on this album. It's like a pop record with rock guitar, and it's great, and you should listen to it. Trench by 21 Pilots. Yeah, I like 21 Pilots. They're not a pop band. They have pop songs. They hit the radio. That's fine. But fuck Heathens as a song. But everything else is good. Everything else is a bop. This album, I would say, is one of my favorite albums of all time. It's a concept album, and if anyone really knows me, I love concept albums. I just think it's cool when you have a body of work and the order of tracks is intentional. It opens up with Jumpsuit, which is like heavy hard rock song, and then goes through a couple of tracks. You end up on a song called Morph, which is very much Tyler talking about his struggle with faith, and that kind of permeates through this album. And I would say I'm a Christian, but I struggle with faith at times, and so a big part of this album I relate to. And you have those weird tracks that are just jams, like Pet Cheetah's a jam, The Hype is a jam, but then you have those serious songs like Neon Gravestones talking about celebrity suicides and how it ironically glorifies the act when it's supposed to not be that way. And then Legend, which he wrote for his grandfather who had passed. And then the closing track of the album, which is probably my favorite track on the album, Leave the City. It very much fits within the metaphor that the album is going for and acts as a close, but also how it sounds, like its production, its composition, the way the vocals fit, the lyrics. It's just a really good song. When it kicks in at the end with the "In time I will leave the city," I go nuts. It's a very emotional song, and I would say if you don't listen to this album all the way through, at least listen to that song. But 21 this album is why 21 Pilots was my most listened to band in 2019, because it's just so good. Editing Dylan here. Completely botched my take on Periphery 3. So this next album is Periphery 3, and this is one of my favorite albums ever. I could talk at length. I'll probably do a video in the future why Periphery is my favorite band, but Periphery 3 will always be in rotation. Start to finish, it's a great album. It starts And the first few songs are quite heavy. I will admit, normally when I go to listen to this album, I start at the song Marigold. My favorite aspects of this album are the almost pop lyrics, not lyrics, almost pop melodies infused with hard-hitting metal guitar tone. Nolly's bass tone will forever be the best. And then songs like The Way the News Goes, that intro riff, like super difficult to play, but very, very melodic. And then Remain Indoors is just a jam. And then towards the end of the album, you get songs like Catch Fire, Absalom, and Loon. And those three songs are basically what it feels like to fall in love. Catch Fire, I believe in some interview I read that Spencer was like writing about his girlfriend or something. Hopefully that worked out, but it definitely worked out for this album. And this will always be in my rotation. So if you haven't heard it, check it out. Best album ever. Loon, forever to make me cry. Forever. All right. So this one. This is definitely, in the last 2 months, my favorite album ever. Well, my favorite EP ever. Maybe it just takes the spot of my favorite EP ever and just stays there. Yvette Young plays in the band Covet, and they're an instrumental sort of, kind of, Animals as Leaders, Polyphia-esque, like lumped in with those. I would say more like a Sarah Longfield type, but as far as how she sounds in Covet, I don't know. Just go check Covet out. They're really good. But I wanted to go through some of her solo stuff, and I came upon this. And it's literally 5 songs of piano. She plays piano and violin, and it's the best thing ever. It's in the background of the video right now, if you guys can hear that. But it opens up with a song called Cap. Now, okay, I'm a crazy person, maybe, but I was going to bed. I put headphones on, and I turned this EP on, and I was going to go from start to finish, having never heard it before. I swear I went on a journey. Maybe it was because I was super tired. I don't know. But it opens up with a song called Captain. And the general vibe is, I felt like, like you're on a ship, you're searching for something. Like the music was kind of almost made you feel that. It's like, oh, like we're going somewhere. Where are we going? I don't know what this is. I've never heard this EP before. Then you get into the song Reminisce, which is my favorite song on the piano EP. And maybe I'm just going off titles, but Reminisce definitely fits the vibe. I could definitely, I got a little nostalgic, and I love the melody line of the song. It's really good. I felt it feels like a logical journey from Captain. So then you go to Yearn, and it just kind of emphasizes that feeling that I felt from Reminisce. You just feel this ethereal, like, ocean, melancholy thing. And then it goes into Sincere, which kind of a little bit more upbeat. And then Jolt might as well be Covet on piano. So I have a theory. With this, because I've listened to a few Yvette Young interviews after I listened to this, and she talked about in those interviews how she had kind of a rough start to life, and then had like an eating disorder or something, and was in the hospital, and a bunch of crazy shit happened, and then she vented it out in music, and then now she plays in Covet. So my theory is that Captain is her searching, Reminisce is her thinking about her childhood, Yearn is thinking about everything that she wants or wanted and didn't get, Sincere is kind of being objective and like moving forward, kind of like, okay, this is the way things are. And then Jolt is Covet. And that's why I've only listened to this most, like, well, not only, but I've listened to this EP way more than I should have in the last week, because I watched a couple of interviews and I saw that and I was like, whoa. And bear in mind, I could just be being a crazy person. I could have no idea what I'm talking about. But I think I'm onto something. And I think that you should go listen to this if you're into instrumental music. And if you want to feel things. And let me know what you think. And so, yeah. So that's a wrap for this week's video. Again, I will figure out top 10 lyrics and do that, but I feel like this was a lot easier and more fun for me. What I want this channel to sort of be is just kind of me reaching out, me sharing music and elements of myself with people who I don't know. It's very much easier for me to do it behind a camera rather than actually in person. I'm very quiet, but my band 5 Minutes Left has a few shows coming up, one the 25th of this month, and I'm pretty excited about it. So if you want to hear about that stuff, follow our band page at 5 Min Left Band, I think is what it is on Instagram, or just hit me up and then you can find it that way. My Instagram is @TheDylanBourne, and yeah, anyone that watched, thanks. Peace.